Hello, and welcome to Jarviskjir, A Mother's Love, episode 33. Yeah.
Hello.
Hi. Hello. Everybody.
That's the energy we're going with today.
That's like better than 50% of the episode starts, to be fair. We have no Doxy for the start. She might be dropping in later. Who knows? Wibbly wobbly, timey wimey. That does mean that we have to do a little bit of a soft retcon of the end of the last episode, but that's okay. I'm
really confused with you. I was like, what the hell is that? And should it be on stream? And then I realised, yeah, it was.
That other side is way too big for the brush.
You can't actually pull it out, I don't think.
That's what.
You started.
It's not watershed yet.
Yeah, but the
look,
top
you pulled it
side
out.
is
What are
way
you
too
about?
big.
It's to allow rattle room. And maybe you don't squish it in the bottom, Dean. Stop squishing it in the bottom. What is that?
It's like a little tortoise thing.
Looks like a mantis.
Look, it's not mine, it's Hannah's. She just leaves her toothbrush in my room because she's lazy.
And how old is she?
She's 12. Cheers, everybody.
So, last time, you just got back to the city of Naoshiro after crossing off another name from your list. You just defeated Chelian, and you're pretty much planning on the next target being the Warstrider, who is, according to the research in Jiaying's journal, both in charge of the manufacturing district in the city that makes a magical, near indestructible metal, as well as being kind of a Lord Executioner type that does these grand executions at arenas. While you were entering the city, you came across a scene of this crystal being confiscated from the citizens of Narashiro by the Daimao's personal army. And what we were nearly going to do was Indira was going to go and steal some of that crystal because the area around here in the market, the disturbance is already gone, most people have left, but the wagon that the crystal is kind of being stored in is still there before the troopers roll out. And so Indira was like, oh, easy. In and out, quick job. Quick adventure. No problem. But she is, she's got the poo brain right now. So, we're gonna need to, well, it's kind of up to the party what you want to do. Whether you want to sort of interact with this scenario in any way, or just kind of like let sleeping dogs lie, observe, or have observed to be like, okay, we're not going to deliberately cause some more trouble.
Oh, go ahead.
No. Go ahead, Dean.
All right. Considering what we've just been through the past, how long has it been? Like a week or two?
I don't know.
You've been traveling for quite a bit of time, like
Yeah.
usually 2 weeks at a time, so.
I think Gilwin would want to remain a little cautious for now.
Incognito
Yeah.
mode.
Doesn't seem the brightest idea to start picking a fight as a group of wanted people with a bunch of the Daimao's.
Oh, wow, Ian just slagging off Indira.
Ian, you're also a little quiet, by the way.
I'll just hold the microphone up.
That's fine, yeah.
You look like-
I'm okay with that.
Welcome to ASMR, Arvin.
You
And
look
off
like-
to Ian with the weather, with the sports. That's a sport,
Yeah.
Mike.
Yeah, you do. You definitely look like Ian. What's the score at Norwich and Everton?
Well, Dean. Norwich have just had a penalty, but
Yikes.
Yeah, I think, let's be honest, if this crystal's becoming contraband, it's gonna flood into the black market at maximum pace. So if we're really desperate, we could get hold of some. Because that's how cities work.
Yeah.
Especially drow cities that are hives of villainy and scum.
Ooh. Okay, so you're just gonna shuffle off?
Yeah, bustle and buy like a bunch of Jawas in Mos Eisley.
You're in a theme today.
Yeah,
Do you want us to just change to a Star Wars campaign?
I mean,
Wouldn't it be great if I just pulled out the book and the dice? I don't have it, but that would have been nice.
that would have
We
been
can play
nice.
Vampire if you want. I got that one.
I've never played Vampire, but it sounds interesting. I like trying different systems, if I'm honest.
I would like to play Vampire with this group of people at some point, but regardless, the only vampire in the room right now is the vampire of greed. That is the Daimau's troopers stealing from the common man, that you're going to ignore and continue on your way.
That was a stretch, dude.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I know.
segment.
That was deliberately a stretch.
You like Gollum, reaching for that ring.
If it's not a stretch, what's the point? That's my motto. So the question is kind of, what are you guys wanting to do?
Well, we were heading towards the factory district, I believe, prior to meeting this disturbance, to do some reconnaissance.
Okay. You can head off down that way. There's no real issue with sort of finding it, right? Finding your way around the city, yeah, it's longer than it would be in most cities for everyone aside from Vale, who lived in a vertical city of Thundrel, right? So traveling around a vertical city isn't actually that difficult to him because he's just used to it. The Manufactory District is... you were very near it when you were going off to the Mad Priestess's domain. The Mad Priestess's domain is under the Manufactory District. When you're in that area with the overflowing farms and the water pipes, the Manufactory is kind of off to the side from that. So they kind of grow their food right next to where they forge their weapons. The buildings around here are these vast, hot factories that there's very little growth around this area where there's plant life growing all over the city. There's very little in the way of commercial buildings. There's very little in the way of prettiness for a drow place. Similar to the farming district, the factories overflow. Like, the pipes are old and worn, and it seems like acids are bubbling and being transferred from one structure to another, like big old tanks from one factory to another, and a lot of those pipes have got holes melted through it where there's a constant dripping of bright green acid that kind of leaves pools in the rock below. You guys want to kind of garner and gain information? How do you want to go about doing that?
Did you say there's anybody around?
Well, there's always going to be people around,
Right, yeah.
but you figure most people are going to be inside the factories themselves, similar to the vats of growing structures, which are basically food factories, right? You didn't see many people walking around the streets and the kind of walkways and a lot of those sort of New York-esque fire escape kind of structures going between buildings and things. There's not many people, but there's eyes. There's always people around. There's guards sort of checking around the areas. The ways into pretty much every single one of these manufactories that all seem connected are usually guarded by at least two individuals, stuff like that. But there's nothing in the way of people playing music or hanging out. There's no real comfort. Whereas in other parts of the city, there's just drow kind of living their lives, taking things incredibly slowly and relaxed, right?
Theme of the sort of area where we will be able to talk to the residents to gain information. It is likely to be infiltration, I would suspect, unless someone can pull a convincing off-shift guard act and try to chat one of them up.
Can't be me.
No, I fear that this is not somewhere I am going to be of much use. I do not speak the language, and trying to climb over a wall is not going to be the easiest job for me. At least silently.
Neither of you are any use in this situation. I get it. I'm used to it. That was a joke. Lighten up. Come on, people. Can you, make me invisible with a spell or something?
We've been through this. Remember
What?
the
No, I just know you know magic, and I just kind of hope sometimes that you might have something
Don't
cool.
say it. Okay.
Cool.
Unfortunately, the only magic I can use to make you less seen requires me to be within a short distance of you, which would defeat the object.
Well, that is not ideal. I mean, I probably I will be fine. I am thinking though that a great many people will be working in this area on the great many different things, and I wonder what are the requirements for working this visceral. We know it is not the easiest thing to work. Perhaps there is a large contraption, or an area that is billowing a greater amount of smoke, or some such that allows them to generate the heat necessary or pressure necessary to form this metal, rather than simply me wandering around there aimlessly.
Well, firstly, I think we need to establish precisely what we are aiming for in terms of information here. Do we look for the Warstrider's location? Do we look for a way of getting our hands on visceral metal, or...
I think the wisest choice would be to get our hands on the visceral. Even if we find the Warstrider, we potentially cannot harm her at all due to this visceral suit of armor coated to her body. In which case, we are very relatively limited in what we can do without visceral.
Then yes, we need some degree. We need to know some level of, at least some basic understanding of what is required to use the metal, and then if it is something that the armorer with the resistance can use, then we need to know how it is brought in, perhaps know how we can hit a shipment or something.
Perhaps that is suggesting that it leaves in shipment form. It is potentially worked on site.
Yes, in which case we need to know where it is stored in its raw form.
Indeed.
Or some way of getting access to it one way or another.
Probably not its raw form. We'd probably attempt to get some ingots or something of the sort.
Yes, ingots, of course. And I suppose the best way of doing that would be talking to those who work with the metal.
being hired.
Being hired would be ideal and might be viable as if we spend some time with the false identities, but is society here that simple?
You guys give me insight rolls.
Absolutely.
For my sexual pleasure. You're the one with good insight.
No, I'm not. That's Julia.
Ah. All the same.
Does it really matter what Ian's modifiers are?
Yeah. Thing being stupid, so I'm gonna have to change this momentarily. Advantage toggle.
Ian's on a weird setup today. He's
Yeah,
on the
sorry, I might
old
be
classic
outside.
Eric during Eberron awkward laptop setup.
Yeah.
Hopefully you don't fall asleep during the session like he did once. Gilwyn, while you're kind of having this conversation, because they're kind of leading it, essentially, allows you to look around. Now, Narashiro is usually quite a well-lit city. Despite the fact that Drow have really good dark vision, they don't want to rely on that, because dark vision is limited. It doesn't allow you to see all the colours that are blessed upon this world. And there's actually still quite a lot of artistry, especially in the colour of stone used here. But even despite that, this area is quite well lit from just the glow coming from windows, where usually it's too sort of diffused for you to see what's going in, or just lanterns that kind of line streets that kind of run between buildings and things like that, or over buildings quite often. You notice that of the people walking the streets that you found yourselves quite easily on, they're all quite rich, leading you to believe that quite a lot of the people traveling around probably oversee and run these places rather than working them. Probably based on what you've been seeing, a majority of work, at least in the majority of these forges, is slave work. Even occasionally when you linger, you see, you know, an underside to one of the factories that has slaves kind of, well, they're actually throwing out dead slaves kind of out of the, just into the pits of the areas below.
Nice.
Although, having said that, maybe the people inside aren't actually workers, more like slaves, I guess.
Yeah, I guess that would make a lot of sense for most of them. I guess the skilled craftsmen amongst them are workers, but why not have the majority as a free workforce?
From what you've learned about the city, even a lot of skilled workers are slaves. They're owned by probably one of these factories.
That's true, yeah.
There's literally a caste in this society called free slaves that still belong to someone, usually like a corporate entity or a house, but they can go and live and go about the city as much as they want. They are basically forced to work for this place, like working for Amazon. Right?
Wowza.
Random shade thrown there. Fair, but random shade.
It's too appropriate. Watch the news. But yes, so just knowledge.
I suppose I best go and have a look then.
Yeah, I think slow and steady might end up being too slow and steady if we were to go the employment route. Employment in very heavy quotes.
Indeed.
Okay. I like put my hands on Vale and be like, do your thing, and I'll inspire him.
Yeah. He stretches down, touches his toes. It's been a little while. Okay. Okay.
Fail.
Ah, well, you know me. I tend to be quite lucky.
What are you doing?
I guess he just gonna climb the wall.
Wall where? Which wall? Where?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of walls.
Yes, that is true.
I mean, honestly, at this point, do I just Batman it? Do I just climb up somewhere high and look around?
Okay, yeah, if you want to do that, give me an acrobatics roll. That's totally fair. That's so it's quite easy to do in this kind of city because, you know, it is a vertical city. There are walkways around. But the walkways you've been traveling on are the roads most traveled. They won't get you to the best places, so a couple of well-timed leaps, you know, can get you onto, like, a ladder that goes up the side of a frickin' pillarous chimney, right? You can get up nice up there, and you can look around with a perception check, please, and see what you see. Unfortunately, kind of as is the case with this city, even from above, it's more of the same. You kind of... It's hard to even tell what the layout of these linked manufactories are, because they're kind of like weird Tetris blocks interlinked in this very strange way, you know. You don't really see elven factories, right? So it's kind of a surreal way, especially the way that they're... What you do notice is that most of the structures are kind of built between natural rock, with pits below, and usually some degree of space above, which then will trickle off into the city above. Very rarely are there chimneys that go straight up. Often the chimneys seem to actually push down or are pipes that travel, like, they just disappear off into the stone. Which leads you to believe, because of, again, your knowledge of this kind of thing, that it'd probably be really easy to get into factories undetected from below, especially with, shenanigans.
So let's see. Let's think. Do these factories? So when you like refine metal and whatnot, you produce slag.
Yeah.
Is there a slag pile anywhere?
You see slag usually being thrown into the pit or transferred to other factories. Like, literally from here, you could see almost Factario-esque, or that other game that I played for a while, I don't remember the name of, Factory Town or whatever, conveyor belts that are bringing that slag to a different factory to be made better use of, right?
So, if I take a while up here, because it'd probably take a while to watch and wait and see, is there a factory that isn't producing slag, therefore working with purified material already?
Yeah, if you want to basically spend your time to try and figure out which one a Varustel factory would be, feel free. Would that be perception? I suppose it still is, yeah. If you want to, like, actually stand up here for, like, an hour doing it, like a freaking assassin,
like
you
a
can give
Batman.
yourself advantage. Yeah, still. Yeah. Climb a tower, see all the waypoints nearby.
Perception, yeah? Okay.
Yeah. It does lead to the good situation of you two being like, oh, you climbed up there. Still up
dead.
there. You can see him, he's not really doing anything up there. Of all the factories, one of them, and it's hard to even say if it's central or not, because again, they're these strange shapes that all kind of connect, isn't producing any slag and has more of the acid tubes going into the factory and acid running out of it as well. Literally 3 massive pipes that are just dripping this neon green acid out into the dark pits below the factory, just without any sort of care. Which, of the research you did, Varustel is actually, you believe to be, acid forged, at least in part of the process, and it's not producing any slag, so that would probably be where the majority of that kind of thing would be. Of the factories, this one appears to have quite more wings to it than others. It's almost like a little castle of little towers and spinnerets, but some of the towers come off sideways because they're building in this awkward 3D space and things that have been added. And you figure that, different parts are doing different things, different kind of craft, but all with this very important material. And the security around this factory is much higher as well.
In that case, Vale would make his way back down and let the others know that he reckons he's found the area that the refined visceral is being worked. Or refined visceral is being formed into ingots. Probably both.
Well, I suppose that means we have a target.
It sort of looked like it might be easier to come up into one of these factories from below.
Like the... Okay. But we need to find the beginning of these vents first, right? Did you see any?
There are really big holes that are really quite difficult to miss. Maybe if we just found some stairs down, we just kept taking stairs down, we'd eventually get to like an area where we could see across some of these pipes.
Well, I'll look up at the sky, Ollie. What time? Well, fuck me. We're underground. What time
So
of day?
the way it works down here is there's kind of cycles. Unfortunately, being in a manufactory district with not much common folk around, you can't really tell. You guys you're probably, it's afternoon. You would probably be wanting to stop for dinner
the sun
soon.
is up, I believe, can't I?
Yes. He instinctively knows that it is still daytime, but that doesn't really work like that in Jarviskjir. It's essentially 2 12-hour shifts, and people either take one or the other.
Okay, so the factory is never not running.
Yeah. That would be your assumption.
The elf police never sleeps.
Yeah. From your time in the city, there is never a time the city is asleep. There are 2 1-hour periods where the cycles kind of
There's a
miss
transition.
each other. Yeah, which is essentially nighttime.
Yeah.
That would be when any shady business would go down or stuff like
Because
that.
that's like changeover of shifts. It would be easiest to sneak into places there.
Yeah.
Vale, maybe this sounds like a good idea, or at least the best one. If we wait until a time where let's call them what they are, the slaves transition their shifts, maybe that's the best time to get in there amongst the confusion and the chaos. I don't think all 3 of us could,
Potentially.
unless you've got a better idea.
I suppose you and I could fit.
If I am not, well, yes, quite frankly, I would probably. My best strength is firepower and going in the front door by talking my way in, not through going through pipes. But if it is the 2 of you who need entrance via a lower pipe, I can imbue both of you with the ability to fly for 10 minutes. That should be enough to get you in. Getting out, you would have to handle yourselves.
That could work. Well, getting out, there are ways.
It is easier to get out of a high place and get into it often. Although it is not always pretty when you fall from the top.
I'm sorry, have you fallen from a very high place?
Not as such.
Have you watched someone else?
Once or twice.
You live in the sea. You must
You know-
really have to work hard for that.
3 weeks ago, you watched Indira fucking fail at a jump off a cliff, to be fair. And land on her face.
What can I say? Indira tries some rather reckless stunts at times.
Yeah, I see that. I think that's kind of like mine and Gilliwin's first impression of her. She's like, oh yeah, let's sail around, but we have to free the slaves by burning a building.
Yeah. All right. Well, I need some sort of disguise. Are there humans working in there?
You're a human slave who speaks Undercommon. No human from the surface can do that.
Very few, at least. Okay. That's fair.
Just they'll like get up a couple of handfuls of mud and just like rub it all over him.
I mean, just as a thing, like, because we presumably have seen the occasional slave coming and going, I would guess, maybe?
In these factories, when you've been looking, not really. No,
fair
not.
Okay.
Like I said, Gilwin's seen rich folk around.
Fair.
The slaves
Okay.
probably don't leave the buildings down here.
Yeah, I was
I've
just
got
thinking,
a wheelbarrow full of metal, and they're like, no.
yeah.
Well, those two sorts of things seem to be kind of connected between the factories, usually. One thing that you also would have seen, Vale, is that kind of on one side, which you would figure is basically closest to the wall of the city, as well as lowest, appears to be almost like a docking port for this factory district, where there's a lot of resources in, not so much out. Because this isn't a mining area, although you imagine maybe some mining goes on down below. But in your expertise, elves rarely do their own mining, so it's probably stuff bought from other people.
Mm-hmm.
And slaves.
Slaves, always slaves. When in doubt in Drownlands, it's slaves.
High elves definitely don't have slaves do their mining for them.
No, exactly. That's what the criminals are for. In punitive labor camps.
Gulags.
Yeah.
Are we going so hard that we should? What's the best way to phrase this? Is it fair of us to bring our weapons in, assuming we're hiding them, or is it like, okay, we shouldn't bring our weapons in because we're being slaves?
That's very true.
I'm asking the DM that question, I guess.
Of the kind of slave you've been pretending to be, you know, that kind of well-spoken, kind of bureaucratic slave, it's not even unreasonable that you would carry a weapon, because you would be so indoctrinated and so loyal to a house. Rakath in the other show is a slave, but he's a warrior, right? So you carrying around a weapon, if that's the role you're going for, isn't even that unreasonable, but you might not want to make it be something super flashy and
Yeah, the other thing to consider is that, I mean, Vale's disguise self thing can effectively cover weapons, and Gilwing can use magical attacks. You don't strictly need to take a weapon in.
And knives are always appropriate for characters to carry. And yeah, it's disguise self. It basically creates a kind of illusionary sheath. It's a humanoid in shape. So if you wanted to hide your weapon, then yeah, they wouldn't be able to see the weapon. But
they might brush against it and
they
be
might
suspicious.
brush against it and see it, yeah.
I suppose I could hide
like a big drow condom over you.
Wowzer. I guess I could hide the longbow and...
A big Wii Motion Plus...
And the rapier.
Controller.
So that way I'd still be covered in daggers and have a drow hand crossbow.
Yeah, the longbow is almost like the most showy thing that doesn't really fit, right?
Yes, indeed.
Okay.
And then what are Serena and Indira going to be doing during this? Because Indira might be back at some point.
Well, I mean, logically, once we've gone down, found pipes, and Serena has cast the spell, because the lower area residential temple area.
Below the factory is endless darkness. Logically, the temple should be below this, but it might be miles below this.
Okay.
Right? And like whether that lines up completely, right? You guys are currently under the assumption that you can walk down and find a place to see up. That's probably very unlikely. Maybe possible if you do some acrobatics, like Vale just did, to like use like, you know, workman's passageways and things. But
so basically, it's better for Serena to cast Fly on these two, them to go down from this level and then back up effectively, because 10 minutes of flight would presumably be, if they go down from close enough, then yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could fly under a building from 10 minutes from here, then you could get there. What you do when you're there, whether there actually is a way up and stuff like that, is hard to tell.
I mean, Gilwing can cast Sending to get us to come in if they need help. So the most logical thing for Serena and Indira to do would probably be to find like a tavern near the factory district and
wait
just basically
until
kill
chaos
occurs.
Fair enough.
Okay. So are we doing this today, now then? Or are we going to wait and dress up?
I see no reason not to do it today.
I have my full magical energy, so it is no problem for me to cast the spell on you.
I have no objections.
Do you think it is worth going under and up, or whether it is worth flying over towards it, nice and high, dive down, go under and up?
There are watchtowers.
There are watchtowers around this building.
Usually on the roofs. Because just in Narashir in general, there's usually guards on roofs, because people climbing walls is very likely. I mean, even in Thundral it would have been, you know, guards on roofs, because people climb. Right? Going below means you'll be doing a stealth check, but you'll be doing it with advantage, because you'll be going under more structures and things.
Let's go below then.
Okay. I'm just going to put my spell in the thing.
Okay. You cast a spell on the two of them. They feel a little weightless, but at this point all of you have flown, at least at some point. So, flying towards, the first fact is the stealth roll. Like I just said, to get under the main manufactorum without being seen. So that's stealth with advantage for both of you.
Cool.
Oh.
14 isn't that bad. As you fly under, definitely see silhouettes in windows of structures that react to your presence. You don't necessarily hear anything in the ways of an alarm, and you don't necessarily see people. You're not shot in any way, but your presence definitely was noted.
Oh shit! Did you see the size of that pigeon?
The flying spiders sure are large this year. Your presence definitely was noted, but not necessarily in this factory, more in the ones you flew under to get there, which you figure will cause a general state of alarm, but not immediately. With that, you can fly under the main factory where, like I said, it's kind of like a castle of different sections and wings built up, some of them built below. There are those main pipes that are pouring acid out. And those pipes are rather large and do have ladders and things on the way up on the side of them, which logically would lead to essentially a kind of runoff area. You also see something in the way of just a general sort of disposal chute, kind of like the underside of frickin' Cloud City. There are ways up. It's kind of, if you want to go in through the acid way, the general sort of way, which kind of does have a bit of a gangway, which just from like Vale's passive perception, before you even fly up all the way, you can see that there's like a guard sanctioned there, kind of keeping watch. Trying to think if there's any other sort of way in. You could always try and break in, you know, a sort of window or something. You think that one of those structures over there is kind of like a manager's office that kind of looks on the underside of the structure. That is always an option to someone who has broken into as many buildings as you guys have, right? And if you guys have an idea that I haven't said, always feel free to suggest. The worst that I can do is laugh at you.
Gilwyn, what do you think? Acid, trash, or window?
I love the idea of like Vale very confident with flying and Gilwyn like trying to stop.
Which was closer to the
I don't bloody know.
You're all.
Building.
This is all under the one big factory that Vale thinks is working on Warstrider, right? You have no idea what part is doing what and things like that. But logically, the runoff would kind of connect to every part of the factory, right? So with the sort of dumping area, whereas the advantage of breaking into, say, an office is that you would kind of be skipping all the mundane labor, which is a thing.
Any opinions?
Well, the garbage you would assume would be connected to all industrial parts of the factory, which is where we're most likely to find some of this.
That's true.
I know it's not the most pleasant, but...
Well, yeah, unless someone's throwing away a big hunk of metal, you better put a helmet on or something. Fine, trash chute it is, let's go.
Hey, if you have do you have an opinion?
Yeah, I think they're all shit. Really. I mean, it's like, do you want to be melted by this literally glowing green acid, or have someone shit on your face?
Definitely the second one.
Yeah, I suppose. But what if they also pour acid down the shit chute, and the acid hits your face and it melts, and then someone shits on your face?
The nerve endings would probably be damaged before you feel the poo. So you wouldn't even know someone's pooed on you.
Okay.
Yeah? Does that put your mind at ease?
Not really, no.
Let's go.
Do you want to fly stealthily up to this one? Because the trash chute has guards, right? Or at least you can see at least one guard, but when there's one guard, there's usually more.
Let's fly stealthily.
Yeah, fly casual. It's like whether you want to fly under or if you want to just fly at him, swinging your fucking sword, right?
It is tempting to just like fly in both fists forward and just punch.
Because
him
you
off and
are
just
aware
Wilhelm
that
scream.
like that guy is probably an easy kill even for Gilwyn, but the issue
Well, let's
is
try
if it is-
not to kill if we can. Let's get up and.
All right, stealth rolls, no advantage this time.
I saw ones. I didn't like it.
Those are good. Those are nice. I just realised I haven't got the dice out. Right.
So a one. I was like,
What am I doing?
oh, it's 2 ones.
Borp. Yeah. The guard is kind of standing on the edge of there's this trash chute area is kind of like an underhanging box, right? These kind of great metal with a chute and a ladder, as well as just an area where things are being dropped, as well as it seems that area that's being dropped has a sort of one of those pulley up and down things, but they're just not using it half the time. He's kind of standing on one of the edges. He kind of like kicks a rock off. When you guys kind of fly up onto this platform, he definitely is like, huh, what was that? And is aware
In the wind.
something is going on, but just like the other people, he doesn't see you guys when you land on this platform. With those rolls as well, you can swoosh your way inside if you would want. And he's just like, what's going on? But this doesn't sound like that because he is an elf, not a random human. But still, same energy. With that, you can go up into the trash chute, which is mostly bagged up. Seemingly there's a lot of food waste, not necessarily sewage. That is something dealt with another sort of way, but there's sort of the food waste, broken tools, old barrels and boxes. It's a very large chamber, and there's kind of, just a dirty, murky water that kind of grows at the bottom of it, where it doesn't quite go up to the lips of the chutes down below. Several pipes going up, as well as a door out.
Up. Makes sense.
Why?
Because trash falls down.
And literally, like, you say that, you're like, huh? And then, like, there's a clank, clank, clank as someone throws something. It's just like a box of nails or something down the chute that crunches into the piles. Yeah, luckily you weren't climbing. Luckily you weren't climbing up during that moment, because that would do at least 1d4 piercing damage.
Right. I get that trash falls down, but where do you think? So you think the visitor will be up there because of this?
Well, like every part, all industrial areas will be above this particular room, right? If they're all throwing garbage down here.
Oh, fuck. Okay, let's go. But you go first. I don't want to be nailed.
Having said that, is there just one pipe leading?
There's one main pipe that you imagine will branch.
Yes, okay. Yeah, the pipe will probably branch off. And from there, do we split up?
No, I don't think so. It's a bad idea.
Okay. Well then, when it splits, we just have to pick.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we just pick one.
You can
Probably.
start flying up. It starts branching off, and you just gotta pick a direction. Gilwyn, because you're the one ahead, can you give me a perception check, please?
Absolutely.
I will say this pipe is very hot. It's the kind of thing where you don't want to touch the sides. Luckily, you're flying.
Yeah, thank God we're flying.
For a short amount of time more. You have no idea which way is what. It still does go up, and there's there's a lot of different ways.
Are any of these pipes particularly charred or kissed by acid?
No. Of the only thing you can really tell is that one of these smells the most rotten.
Okay.
Let's go left.
Far left.
I don't know. One of the left probably might.
Far left.
It's while you're going through this pipe that your flight will run out, which means I want you to both give me dex saves.
Oh no.
As you go further, you do notice areas where these pipes do have very sci-fi-esque kind of spinning fans, usually that go above or below, some that just go doff into the bottom, which do deal with the heat a little bit, but not so much. And hilariously, because Gilwyn is ahead, where are my fucking dice?
Can I use luck, please?
Yes!
Okay.
That's much better. Which means both of you are going to take 5 fire damage, as you do have the flight end, but you kind of find ways to hold on to the right parts of the pipe.
Oh,
kind
wait.
of wires up on the top and things like that, too.
What? Neil.
I don't know.
Okay.
Does this count? It's certain area effects.
Not this, because no matter what, you are touching incredibly hot metal. So I won't allow it on this one. But this is also going to count for the entire traversal to the end of this pathway, right? This isn't just one issue with fire damage.
But what if? No, I'm only memeing now. But what if Faye was just doing this with his feet?
I mean, to be fair, that's probably not far from the truth.
There's no heat transfer. It's like permanently.
So, this pipe's quite long, but also large enough for you guys to walk and run through with quite a lot of ease. Even lanky ass Gilwyn. You're both as lanky as each other, but you know that's where my mind went. Shout out reminder that both Gilwyn and Vale are exactly the same height. Isn't that cute?
Oh, kawaii desu.
The end of this entryway opens up, but first of all, lips up and out, and you can hear the repetitive clanging and slashing and splashing and sizzling. You can smell the abrasive acid. It kind of burns your nose even from down here in the chamber above, and you can see the green glow of the acid in some part of the chamber above you. And this will open up into the forge proper.
So it opens up into like a lipped area.
You don't know where it opens up into because you are seeing a ceiling.
But there was mention of lips.
Earlier.
Like,
usually
yeah.
the pipe, usually the pipes aren't flush to the ground. Usually there's maybe around 6 to 8 inches of lip.
Okay. Cool.
Ladies.
I mean, what choice do we have?
The question is kind of how do you want to go about leaving this pipe? Because it's very likely that this is within a place people can see. And the way up, while there is actually enough rivets and handholds to climb up quite easily, you know, you're going to be going off into a place where people are probably going to see. So however you want to sneak around this place, this is kind of the start of it, right?
Okay, Gilwyn. Here's the story. Okay. We climb out, and if anyone says anything, we brush ourselves off and say, well, we're dealing with the infestation. You've got termites in your tubes. Yeah, you've thrown too much good food down there. Now you have termites, and we're trying to find the queen and the nest, and we're the exterminators.
Okay.
It's foolproof.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay, good. Right, let's go.
Okay, which one of you is coming out first?
Me.
You pull your way out, and this opens up into a bit of a side chamber into quite a long, tall room. The side chamber seems to be a bit of a storage space. There's kind of hangers on the walls for tools and things, as well as this chute for throwing things away. Where it opens up into is this long chamber that's sort of made of at least 3 different segments that have this deep pit of acid that goes down who knows. But you figure it's probably symmetrical to the 40 feet high chamber up above, where you can see the acid fumes kind of going up, and an uncountable number of machinations and these pipes and tubes that on conveyor belts that kind of bring things along and dip and hiss and sizzle, and those big old crucible pots of acid, and also pots of water being all pulled along by all the mechanics and things. And you quite also notice quite quickly that this is not all mechanical, because there are slaves at the ends of these devices at the far sides of the rooms pulling wheels and in the sort of walker wheels, right? That's not, you know what I mean. This seems mechanical at first because you've been dealing with artificers and things, but most of it is quite literally manpower. There are mostly people overseeing, kind of looking on the pipes and kind of pulling levers and things like that. They seem to be mostly slave stock. Let me roll dice. The person kind of standing right near here is a dwarf. Not even deep dwarf, seemingly a full-blood dwarf. The beard is all burnt away by the acid and kind of gives this tired look towards you, your clothes steaming, and then kind of does a motion towards some kind of overseer who starts off towards you but is a long ways away, enough time for Vale to come out of the pipe as well.
I will help Vale out, and like take some chalk out of my bag and put like a little tick on the pipe.
Right, that's another one done. Did anyone notice us?
A dwarf. I think he wants someone to come over.
Oh, okay, let's just wait here and discuss the thermites then, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're nasty buggers. Big like jaws, and yeah, they generate an awful lot of heat in their abdomen. That's why they're called thermites. Melt
Alright.
through metal, quite dangerous.
We're gonna take a quick little break here. I was gonna see how long this bumble conversation would be, because I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever, thermites, let's go. All right, we'll be back in a bit, hopefully with a doxy.
That was a big stretch.